Hi everyone. This month we are going to learn about the law of expectation. The essence of the law of expectation is these three words: expect the best. What is our normal mindset about our students? Do we usually expect great things of our children and students? Unfortunately, I don't believe most people do. Actually, most of us think that our private thoughts about our class or individual student won't make any difference anyway. As long as we keep our thoughts quiet and don't let our true feelings show, everything will be fine. The law of expectation rejects this notion. What we believe about our students made an incredible difference in what they learn in our class. Our expectations undeniably have a tremendous impact on the lives of our students, both for good and not for good. Let's take this concept of expectation and place it into the biblical context. Hebrew 10 verse 24-25 says, that I should consider you in order to stir up love and good works in you. The Greek word behind consider means to evaluate, to constantly look at your audience and ask, where are they? Are they with me now? What are their needs? How can I adjust my content and delivery to teach them more effectively? I must know what's going on in your life, or I can't stir you up. Consider also means to brood over. It means to quietly analyze the subtle messages you are sending me. For example, your body language. Too often, however, we who teach are so wrapped up in our content that we miss the messages from the people God has called us to consider. This chart pictures how these biblical concepts relate together. The box on the left stands for the speaker or parent or teacher. The box on the right represents the student or child, and the box in the middle, the subject. In the first box, the speaker must examine or consider the student to shape the expectation, which is done in private and should be done constantly, because the situations of the children is always changing. In the student box, the goal of the teacher is to excite, to stir up the student for the positive, which is love and good works, as well as to stop the negative, no hard heart. This is done in personal and should be done progressively according to the situations and development of your student. The middle arrow reflects the process. The teacher takes what has been done privately considered regarding the needs of her students and exhort or speak to them in public manner on a daily basis, or at least constantly. In the musical My Fair Lady, British speech professor Henry Higgins makes a bet with a friend that he can transform a poor flower girl, Eliza Doolittle, into a refined blue-blood lady. To assure his success, the professor not only works with the girl on her manners, speech, and dress, he also spreads the word that he will escort a refined, beautiful princess to London's biggest ball of the year. He knew the power of expectations. Weeks later, during the ball, everyone are amazed by the speech and action of Eliza. In the middle of the play, Eliza makes a profound statement. She says the real issue isn't how she acts, but what people expect of her. And she says it was Professor Higgins' expectations that caused her to change the most. This is how a girl off the streets becomes a fair lady. A powerful force, for good or ill, lies within our expectations. Let's consider through the expectation principles below. Expectations exist in everyone about everything all the time. Expectations are as common as breathing. We have expectations about almost everything. You have expectations about this video, about whether it will help you. If you expect this video to be great and it turns out to be only good or even bad, you will be disappointed. The first step in blossoming your students is to realize that we all have expectations already. Without our even realizing it, expectations constantly impact us and others. Because of their impact and the fact they exist, we must learn to use expectations for good. You probably know what a placebo is. It's a fake pill. Until 1890, 90% of all drugs prescribed were sugar pills. The sicker you were, the bigger the pill. If you were really ill and there was not any known drug to treat your illness, the doctor would prescribe a large, ugly pill. The doctor knew the placebo had nothing to do with the patient's getting better. But if the patient believed in its power enough to take it through the night, it was bound to have a positive effect. Such is the incredible power of our expectations. The next principle, expectations empower others when guided by love. The ultimate reason for seeking to blossom another person must be love. We must desire to help everyone we can to become everything God wants them to become. Such people blossomers are rare, aren't they? If you were to look back over your life, you'd probably find only a few people who believe in you and encourage you in a meaningful and life-changing way. They love us when we don't love ourselves and share their biblical expectation because as 1 Corinthians 13 teaches, love hopes all things, believes in all things. I would like to tell one story from the book that moved me. Some time ago, the son of some friends of ours was having a difficult time after changing schools. His life seems to be falling apart. He was failing in most subjects. His mother was frantic. Then she happened to meet an old friend who always seems to be on the top of the world. She asked her friend, "How come you're always so positive?" Her friend replied, "There were 6 kids in our family, and my mom always kept a notebook on each of us. At the end of each month, mom called us into our bedroom, took out our book and said, 'I like you to read this.' She did that for years." Our friend decided to try it with her son. She bought a notebook and started to look for something good in her boy. For the first 2 weeks, he couldn't find one good thing to write down. One night, as she and her husband were discussing this problem, they realized that they've been so down on their son, they couldn't see even one good thing in him. She confessed her blinders to the Lord and began to look harder and harder and finally found something to write in her book. One day, she called her boy to her room and said, "I have a notebook. I want you to read." He was real quiet as he read it. Then he said, "Do you really feel this way about me?" "Of course I do," she replied. He began to cry and said, "I thought you and Dad were only down on me all the time. I didn't think you loved me anymore, and you thought I was a complete failure." What a dramatic turning point in that young man's life and for that family. Within a few short weeks, that young man changed. His confidence was revived. His relationship with his parents and others were restored. He stopped fighting with his brother and sisters, and his grades improved. What happened? His parents blossomed him. They found something good to build positive expectation upon for their son's future, and their son blossomed under the wonderful expectation for his good. Expect the best, as the Lord sees every student in our class. We are called to be people blossomers, to help the kids in our class to become everything God wants them to become. Take time to think of one way you could blossom one kid in your class during this month.